Dad, Mom fainted. What should we do? We need to take her to the hospital. My daughter screams from the bathroom. She's calling for help from my husband, who's about to leave for work. While getting ready in the morning, I had a sudden dizzy spell in the bathroom and collapsed. Through my fading consciousness, I hear my husband's dismissive voice. Really? What the heck? I'm busy. She'll get up eventually. My husband has a foul temper and mouth, always leading to fruitless arguments every time we speak. By then, our relationship had deteriorated to the point where even talking to each other was unpleasant. Still, we're a family, so I thought he might at least offer a helping hand when there's trouble. His cold response pierced my heart. It's serious. She's not moving in the bathroom. Come on, Dad. You're an adult. Call an ambulance. My daughter, still in elementary school, is strong in her sense of justice. She's composed and can articulate what needs to be done even in times like these. Desperately, she clung to my husband. I have a company trip now. I can't miss it. You'll have to handle things here. With those words, my husband left without coming near me or calling an ambulance. It left only my crying daughter and me, losing consciousness. Don't go, Dad. I hate you, Dad. I hear my daughter screaming. The guilt towards my daughter was more overwhelming than my own ailment. I couldn't believe he would say such heartless words to our daughter who's just in elementary school. How much must she be hurting now? If only I had done something sooner. And then, a few days later, there had been no contact since then. Finally, my husband called home. I'm coming home today. Have dinner ready. By the way, how's Mom? He asked cluelessly, seemingly forgetting the panicked state of our daughter that day. Over the phone, my daughter replied in a calm voice. Mom, she's about to be cremated. My name is Sarah. I'm a 35-year-old mother raising a third grader. I was a housewife while my daughter was little, but once she started elementary school, I began a part-time job. I work at a diner, which is a 30-minute drive from our house. Though it's busy and there's a lot to learn, working outside the home brings me joy and fulfillment every day. My daughter Linda has always been strong in her sense of justice, which only grew sharper as she started attending elementary school. Whenever boys in her class would fight, she'd bravely step in to stop them, sometimes coming home injured herself. If she saw someone being bullied, she'd be the first to help, and even brought them home once. Although she brings home these minor troubles, I'm always proud of her for her noble actions. But there's someone who disrupts our peaceful life. My husband, James. James has always been foul-mouthed and twisted in nature, unable to accept things straightforwardly. Before we married, I thought his quick thinking and smooth talking were impressive, backed by his good sales performance at work. But after marriage, these traits seem to backfire. Whenever I say something, he argues back. Even when Linda faces troubles at school, instead of praising her. Don't get too involved in troublesome matters. Being too earnest will only cause you problems later. He says with a sneer. Why would he say such terrible things? What if Linda becomes cynical because of this? Don't say that. Linda did something commendable. She did what others wouldn't dare to do. That's admirable. I rush to interject, but instead of crying, Linda bravely retorts to her father. Why, Dad? Would you ignore people fighting at your workplace too? Do you only think about yourself? James sighs in frustration. Don't compare us two. The adult world is different. It's not like elementary school where teachers and parents handle everything for you. He said, getting up and leaving the table, trying to justify himself while shifting the point of discussion embarrassingly as an adult. This is why parenting is such a hassle, he muttered to himself as he walked away. Turning to my daughter, she didn't seem defeated at all, her fists clenched in front of her, eyes shining. I'll talk to the boys in my class again tomorrow. If they apologize, I'll forgive them. If not, I'll tell them again. Her strong sense of justice and dependability inspired me. She's grown into someone with a core of kindness and strength. I'm genuinely proud of her. Working at the diner is tough. Taking orders, serving food, clearing tables after meals, helping in the kitchen, and working the cash register. I have to juggle everything at once, and during busy hours, it feels like my head will explode. The constant standing and walking also physically exhaust me. Despite the challenges, the joy of the work keeps me going, but I'm always completely drained by the time I get home. Moreover, Linda attends dance school, and on my days off, I'm busy with her recital preparations and accompaniment, along with household chores and social obligations. I can hardly remember the last time I had a proper rest, as my daily schedule is always packed. Still, I want to let my daughter pursue her passions. It's this desire not to make my family feel deprived that keeps me going. Of course, my husband James has a steady income as a salesperson, but I wanted to prepare separately for Linda's dance costumes and social expenses. Hey, Linda and I will be at dance school all day tomorrow, so you'll need to take care of your own meals. I say this to my husband one weekend morning, amidst the hustle of getting myself and my daughter ready. In response, he turns from the TV with a scowl. Huh? I didn't hear about this. Why aren't there meals for me? How could you not know? I messaged you last week and mentioned it yesterday, too. It's also on the calendar, isn't it? I retort while tying my daughter's hair. I had informed my husband that Linda had an all-day joint practice for her upcoming dance recital. I don't know. If I don't remember, then I didn't hear it. If you had plans, you should have prepared my meals before leaving. Like I said, I told you. Anyway, you're an adult. You can take care of yourself. He grumbles incoherently, sulking as usual. This is always how it goes. He distorts facts to play the victim and blames me. I've come to dread these interactions. He's been like this for years, and though I once wanted a second child, our constant fruitless arguments have made him less appealing. I've given up on both a second child and our marital life. He often goes to bed early or stays up late gaming after I'm asleep, apparently feeling the same. 2 weeks later, Linda successfully finished her dance recital. Seeing her in a colorful outfit, dancing gracefully with girls her age, I feel it's worth all the hard work. She's now in 3rd grade, thoroughly enjoying her interests. A few weeks pass, and one day I'm lying down at home, feeling unusually unwell. Though it doesn't interfere with life or work, I constantly feel dizzy and tired, and even the TV screen seems too bright. Hoping a night's sleep might help if it's a cold, I prepare a simple dinner and go to bed early. Linda finds me and expresses concern. Mom, what's wrong? Are you feeling ill? She strokes my back over the blanket and I smile at her. Yeah, just a bit tired. Dinner's ready, so help yourself, okay? Tell Dad too. You can warm it up if he's late. Okay, you're always busy with dance preparations and the diner. Don't worry, I can dry my hair myself after taking a bath. She nods confidently, able to handle her own affairs. But then there's my husband. Huh? You're sleeping already? He returns home early and stares at me sharply upon opening the bedroom door. Must be nice. When you're tired, you can just skip chores and sleep whenever. I have to stay late every night with my boss. Next week, I'm on a business trip. I wish we could switch. Instead of showing concern, my husband only left with a snide remark, slamming the door loudly. Living with him seemed to worsen my condition. Eventually, he grudgingly warmed up the meal I had prepared, complaining in front of our daughter. Dad, at least warm up your own food. Linda scolded him, her voice audible through the door. As the living room quieted down, I drifted off to sleep. Unfortunately, a good night's rest didn't improve my condition. I couldn't keep missing work, and Linda's dance lessons and school events wouldn't wait. Despite feeling unwell, I forced myself to resume my usual routine. Seeing my daughter's perseverance filled me with energy, driving me to energetically tackle housework, work, and errands. Then one morning, while preparing Linda and myself in the bathroom, I was plagued by a severe headache, worse than usual. It felt like being hit in the head in rhythm with my heartbeat, with flashes before my eyes even in the dim light. Mom, what's wrong? You look different. Are you okay? Linda, with her backpack on, hurriedly asked, noticing my halted movements. I tried to reply but couldn't make a sound. Then my vision blurred, and I couldn't stand any longer. I collapsed right there in the bathroom. Mom! Mom! I could faintly hear my panicked daughter calling me. I needed to get up, reassure her, and finish getting ready. But as much as I tried, my body wouldn't move. Dad, Mom's collapsed. Next, Linda called for her father. Our relationship was at its worst, constantly fighting whenever we spoke. Still, Linda turned to her father, the only adult present. Huh? What the heck? I'm busy. Don't say that. She really collapsed. She just fell in the bathroom and isn't moving. What should we do? Take her to the hospital. In my clouded consciousness, I could hear them arguing. I don't have time for this. Last time she just slept it off. She'll wake up. I have a company trip and I can't be late. You handle the rest. Don't go, Dad. I hate you, Dad. My husband left without another thought for me, not even calling an ambulance, his tone filled with irritation. I could hear Linda crying. The guilt towards my daughter was overwhelming more than my own ailment. I couldn't believe he could be so uncaring towards our daughter, who's still in elementary school. What a terrible father she's had to live with. How much pain and helplessness she must have felt living with him. How hurt she must be now. If only I had taken action sooner. With that thought, my consciousness faded completely. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed. Opening my eyes, I saw Linda's tearful face close by, as if she had been there the whole time. "Mom, are you awake? Mom, Mom!" Linda hugged me and cried out loud. I managed to lift my heavy arms and embraced her small back. "I'm sorry for worrying you. You've been here all along, haven't you, Linda?" "Thank you." Soon a doctor and nurse entered the room. It turned out I had collapsed from overwork. Cutting back on sleep and working nonstop had put unnoticed strain on my heart and digestive system, pushing me to the limit. I needed a few more days in the hospital. The doctor, after explaining the situation, smiled and said, "Your daughter was remarkable. She immediately used her mobile phone to call an ambulance. Despite being flustered, she accurately described your home address and your condition. Thanks to her, the emergency team arrived quickly and we were able to respond swiftly. She's very smart and capable." Surprised by the praise, Linda blushed shyly. Meanwhile, I felt tears of pride and joy welling up in my eyes. Yes, she's a wonderful daughter. That's why I shouldn't overindulge her and need to be stronger myself. To that, the doctor smiled and advised, "You're doing a great job too. Please don't push yourself too hard." He left with a smile. Since my husband James had gone on his company trip and left us, my mother would look after Linda until I was discharged. My mother visited, worried about me, and scolded me for overdoing it. However, she was relieved that it wasn't a serious illness. After 2 more days, I was able to return home. James's trip seemed unusually long, and he hadn't come home yet. He hadn't shown any concern since leaving me with harsh words when I collapsed. During my hospital stay, and even when I informed him of my discharge, he didn't respond to my calls or messages. Fed up with his indifference, I discussed the situation with Linda. Why he hadn't come home or contacted us for days. I had already investigated and knew the truth. It was just a matter of taking action. 3 days after my discharge, James finally contacted us. I couldn't answer the phone while doing the dishes, so Linda, seeing his name on the screen, she said, "It's Dad." She turned on the speakerphone so I could hear. Despite having left his wife collapsed at home, James's first words were, "Hey, Linda, I'm coming home now. Tell your mom to have dinner ready by evening." Having been deeply hurt when he left me behind, my feelings had moved beyond sadness, and I almost laughed at his words. He didn't contact us for days, and his first concern after returning was his dinner. I wiped my wet hands on the towel, firmly resolving to give up on him, as if wiping away any lingering regrets. Then I heard his voice continue from the phone. "Oh, by the way, how's Mom doing after all that?" Linda, holding the cell phone, met my eyes and nodded in agreement. Then she said to her father on the other end of the call, "Mom's about to be cremated." After saying this, Linda nodded with satisfaction as if she had completed a task and ended the call. On the other side, I heard my husband's panicked voice. "Cremated? What do you mean?" But Linda ignored him and turned off the phone. "Mom, are you ready?" She stood tall, looking up at me. I met her gaze. "Of course," I nodded. We'd already gathered memorabilia and photographs related to my husband in the living room. Using old camping gear, we set them ablaze. Letters, photos, movie tickets from our dates all turned black and charred. The fire spread, creating a large campfire-like blaze in our yard. Eventually, even the hard-to-burn items lost their shape. Jewelry gifted by him, a corkscrew and wine opener he used only for drinking, small plates, all were engulfed by flames. Disappointed to the core by my husband's actions, Linda and I decided to burn and erase all memories and items related to him. The items crackled and burned. Linda and I watched solemnly. After several minutes, a loud voice suddenly came from the entrance. "Hey, what are you doing?" It wasn't a surprised neighbor. It was my husband's voice. He arrived with his carry-on bag, gaping in shock. Linda calmly said to him, "I told you, we're burning it." Then my husband, looking pitiful, sat down in front of the raging flames. "Burn it? When you said that, I thought something happened to..." He tried to show relief. I glared at him coldly. "Did you think I was being burned? That I had died? You misunderstood, or is that what you hoped?" He bit his lip awkwardly, frozen in place, watching the fire. Linda approached him quickly. "What do you mean, Dad? Mom was hospitalized after that. It was serious. But you did nothing, didn't visit, didn't answer calls. Why didn't you care about Mom?" Challenged by Linda's assertive manner, my husband seemed even more upset. "Hey, don't get so angry. It's not childlike." Linda didn't back down and retorted, It's not about being childlike. Why didn't you contact us for 5 days?
I told you I was on a company trip, didn't you hear? It's tough. Always with colleagues, constantly having to be considerate. You wouldn't understand. Enough already.
He tried to enter the house, but Linda grabbed his clothes. There's no way that's true. You had several days, right? If you were busy, just say so. One message would have been enough. Why do you always say such unpleasant things, Dad? Do you really dislike Mom that much?
I was busy, okay? I had no time for calls. I was under my boss's watch from morning to night. Even during meals, even in the bathroom. No matter what happened to Mom, it has nothing to do with work.
Frustrated by my husband's attempts to evade responsibility with his stories about the company trip, I was fed up. I work a part-time job too. I've seen other part-time or full-time workers scrambling when a family member falls ill. Even if his explanation was true, it's impossible that he couldn't have contacted us once. That is, even if it were true. Enough with the ridiculous lies. Angry, Linda and I confronted my evasive husband. I looked at him squarely, my face stern. Don't think you can deceive us with your pathetic excuses. You wanted to go on a trip with your affair partner, even if it meant abandoning your family in a crisis. His face twisted and paled at once. In the 3 days since my discharge, before I could contact my husband, this is what happened. I had been hospitalized for 2 days prior, and despite informing him, he hadn't responded. Suspicious of his silence, I called his company. Worried something might have happened to him while I was incapacitated. I had felt his attitude worsening even before this. When I called, expecting the company to be on a trip, a female employee answered. She informed me there was no company trip and that my husband had taken several days off. Feeling embarrassed, awkward, and angry with my husband, I thanked her and quickly ended the call. He lied about a company trip to take a vacation. He left with big luggage, ignoring family troubles, going MIA. It was all too suspicious. I felt my suspicion solidifying as I entered his private room. I turned on his computer, easily finding the login password on a post-it in the drawer. Then I opened his browser and his social media account. Immediately, numerous records of his affair appeared. Endless sweet exchanges and messages interspersed with photos. Unbelievable. He abandoned his family to have a secret affair with another woman. I was already fed up with his behavior and words, but seeing concrete evidence of his infidelity was shocking. He was the man I married, fathered a child with, raised together. Looking at the woman's social media, I realized she worked at the same company as him. She was beautiful, but that didn't matter. Following the content, it became clear that his current absence was an affair trip. They spent a full 5 days at resorts and tourist spots. How relaxing. Leaving your collapsed wife behind to go on a romantic trip with your mistress. And then I discovered that she didn't even know he was married. My husband had inexplicably set his social media profile to single, and in their exchanges, talked about wanting to get married soon. I almost felt contempt for the other woman, but it was clear that my husband was the one at fault. Did he hate this family so much? Did he want a new woman that badly? Anger boiled up inside me, and I firmly decided on divorce. I turned off his computer, along with any last feelings I had for him. I told my daughter Linda about my decision to divorce. She seemed a bit sad, understandably, but her anger over the situation seemed to prevail, and she agreed in the end. That's when we decided to burn all the memorabilia associated with my husband. Back to the present situation. How nice for you, a 5-day affair trip. I'm envious, I said, glaring at him sharply. I pulled out several sheets of paper from my pocket and thrust them in front of his face. They were printouts of the messages I found on his computer. Seeing them, his face turned red as he stammered.
What is this? Whose social media is this?
It's yours, right? Using your real name for an affair on social media? What were you thinking? I was merciless with my husband, who tried to continue his pitiful deception. Digital footprints can be damning. Be careful with how you handle the internet.
Damn it. So what if it's true? You went through my computer without permission? That's an invasion of privacy.
If you didn't want this, you shouldn't have had an affair. It's natural to worry when you go silent like that. You were too busy with your other women to care about us. He tried to interrupt me, but I cut him off, grabbing his hair.
You didn't check up on her, did you? How did you find out about the trip?
I investigated. I found out she's your colleague and that you lied about the company trip. I called your office. I always knew you were bad, but this is just too much. Obviously, we're getting a divorce. As I spoke, he became increasingly enraged. Then he violently kicked a large travel bag nearby, making a loud noise.
You called the company? What are you doing? You've just ruined my reputation there.
His nonsensical anger was met with my cold gaze. You're bold to talk about reputation when you're cheating on your wife with a coworker.
Yeah, you have it easy. Part-time jobs, dancing, having fun. When things go wrong, you just divorce, huh? You have no idea how much I have to humble myself at work to provide for you. I'm tired of supporting you. I want to be comforted. It's more comforting to be with a young and cute girl than an old wife like you.
I was speechless at his stereotypical abusive rant. It was astounding how he could say such things.
If you want a divorce, fine. Think you can live on your salary? It's impossible. You and Linda depend on me. Out of pity, I'll take custody of Linda.
Custody? Don't be ridiculous. How can I trust Linda with someone who lied about being married to have an affair at work? Afterwards, I ended the pointless conversation with my husband and quickly went back to my parents' house with my daughter. Of course, we made sure to completely extinguish the fire we had made and cleaned everything up. At my parents' house, I explained everything that happened. They were conservative and initially hesitant about me rushing back home and wanting a divorce. However, once they learned about him leaving me after my collapse and his ongoing affair while pretending to be unmarried, they agreed that his actions were legally and morally indefensible. They supported my decision to divorce. Linda also helped explain everything. The day I collapsed, our conversation in front of the burning items, and my parents seemed deeply moved by their granddaughter's earnest words. In the following days, with my parents' help, I found a reliable lawyer. Meanwhile, I continued my part-time job, and Linda continued going to school and dance classes. Since my parents' house was closer to our old home, we could maintain our usual routines. We decided to proceed with the divorce through the lawyer. My husband made various excuses, but we had the incriminating evidence of his social media history and his declaration in front of us about preferring young women. Furthermore, his company's investigation into his emails revealed a plethora of evidence of his affair with a female colleague. He eventually admitted to the affair and agreed to the divorce in front of the lawyer, but still.
I won't give up on custody. Without my income, Linda can't have the same lifestyle. You two have had enough fun already.
He insisted. The discussion never seemed to end, and our lawyer was about to start preparing for a trial. We braced ourselves for a long divorce process. However, 3 days later,
I've changed my mind. I don't want custody. Let Sarah raise Linda.
This unexpected message came from my husband to our lawyer. He had been adamant about custody, so the lawyer repeatedly confirmed his decision. Nevertheless, he insisted he no longer wanted custody. Though I was stunned by his capriciousness, we quickly moved to finalize the alimony and child support, and the divorce was swiftly completed. We didn't want him to change his mind again. We also sought compensation from his mistress, identified easily through her openly public and real-named social media account. With a weight lifted off my shoulders, I started preparing for a new life. Not wanting to burden my parents further, I looked for a full-time job and a place for Linda and me. A month later, I hadn't found a new job yet, but my current boss, recognizing my situation, raised my salary. We found a place to live and were preparing to move when a call from my ex-husband came to my parents' house. I'd already blocked his number on my phone, so he called my parents directly. Hearing my mother's anxious voice calling me, I decided to answer the phone. "What do you want now?" As I answered the phone, my husband's voice was hesitant.
Actually, I want to raise Linda.
"What?" I blurted out, surprised by his inconsistent and irresponsible attitude.
No, it's not that I didn't want her. I think I should be the one taking care of her.
His reasoning was vague and unsatisfying. "Why do you keep changing your mind? Just say it clearly," I demanded. When I questioned him strongly, my ex-husband replied irritably.
"Well, it can't be helped. She said she didn't want a stepchild if we were to remarry. So I reluctantly gave up Linda's custody. I wanted to marry her."
"The woman from your office you had an affair with? You have the nerve to talk to me about her? Is this some kind of harassment?" It seemed he initially wanted Linda's custody, but gave it up to marry his mistress, only to change his mind after being dumped. "Why are you telling me this now?"
"Yeah, listen, I was gonna marry her, but she left me. She was after my salary, and now she's with some rich entrepreneur. She dumped me."
Apparently his mistress was after money and dumped him for someone richer. What a mess. Why am I even hearing about this? I couldn't care less about the breakup story of my ex and his mistress. Does this have anything to do with me? I asked.
"You don't get it. Since she dumped me, there's no point in giving up Linda anymore. I want her back."
Hearing James spew such nonsense made my frustration reach its peak. "Do you have any idea what you're saying? Don't treat our daughter like an object. You never seriously thought about raising her. I'm so sick of your awful personality." He continued, sounding almost tearful. Is there still more to this? I have nothing left to say to him.
"Don't be angry. We're still a family, right? Besides, you calling the company about the trip made my affair public. Now everyone at work knows. I'm being gossiped about and my boss won't give me work. You've ruined my reputation at the office."
My ex yelled.
taking out his frustrations of being dumped on me, making me feel awful. I remembered Linda saying he only thinks about himself. That statement was absolutely correct. This man is unbearably selfish. Enough! How many times do I have to say this? I will never forgive what you did to me and my family. I will raise Linda, and you will pay the child support and compensation as agreed. There's nothing more to discuss with you. I ended the call abruptly, exhausted by the absurd conversation. It felt like a prank call, leaving me drained and puzzled. A few weeks later, after we moved to our new home, I casually checked social media, and though I wasn't interested, I ended up checking the ex-mistress's social media page out of habit. Her page was filled with unbearable complaints and whining. She had been living with her boyfriend, a CEO, but he discovered the affair compensation claim at their new home. Of course, he found out and dumped her. She claimed ignorance about my ex-husband being married and now felt wronged and abandoned, wondering what to do next. Yes, I sent the compensation claim to her current address, which she shared with her next boyfriend. It must have been shocking for him to receive such a document. She was dumped and left confused, repeatedly posting online asking for help. Her posts gradually turned into blaming me. She claimed it wasn't an affair because she didn't know he was married. But no one took down the compensation claim. Everything was messed up because of that man's wife, me. She expressed her desire for revenge, but fortunately she didn't know my current address or contact details. I'm careful with my privacy and don't use social media that can reveal my identity. Her anger had nowhere to go, and she likely faced financial burdens due to the compensation. Later, I heard she left her job because of the discomfort, and around the same time, my ex also resigned for similar reasons. Meanwhile, 2 months after moving, I found a full-time job. A regular customer from the diner I used to work at, who turned out to be an executive at a nearby company, had noticed my hard work and offered me a job in sales. I gratefully accepted the position at his company. As I was busy with my new job, my parents informed me that my ex had shown up at their house. I had not given my ex our new address and had blocked his calls on my phone. So he went to the extreme of showing up at my parents' house. He begged for forgiveness for his affair, saying it was all in the past, and desperately wanted custody of Linda. My father, still furious with him, was there. He told him,
"You irresponsible liar. I will never let you see my daughter or granddaughter again.
There's no chance of you getting custody. Leave now and don't come back." Afterwards, my ex struggled to find a new job. Apparently, his untrustworthy nature reflected in his appearance, as he remained unemployed. Even when he turned to his parents for help, they already knew everything and refused to assist him. He continued to look for work, supplementing his income with part-time jobs to pay the compensation. What will become of my ex's life? The deceitful liar, abandoned by both his wife and mistress, ended up alone and unsupported. Linda, as usual, was bright and active. In 4th grade, she became a class representative and a leader in her dance group. The thought of her performing center stage at the next recital filled me with excitement. "Sorry, I've been too busy with work to keep up with your practice," I said to her upon returning from work. "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of myself, especially since you're working hard. But you've got to come to the recital," she said, smiling brightly. "Of course. I've adjusted my work schedule. I'm really looking forward to it. Grandpa and Grandma said they'll come too." "Really? That's great." My parents often visited our new home to help out and were delighted to watch their granddaughter's growth. Linda was very fond of them and was thrilled to know they would attend her dance recital. I might still cause some difficulties for Linda, but I hope she continues to be surrounded by kind and honest people. Linda, who bravely confronted her father, could fend off unpleasant people herself. Yet I will always be there to support her.